Hello everyone, you're listening to the Fun Friday edition of Learn Japanese Pod. If you don't know what Fun Friday is, it's when we put away our Japanese textbooks and talk about cool people doing cool stuff in Japan and Japanese culture. And I am joined as always by Ami Sensei. Ami Sensei, よろしくお願いします。
はい、こんにちは。
元気ですか？
よろしくお願いします。はい、元気です。アレックスさんは？
元気ですよ。元気ですよ。絶好調です。よろしくお願いします。
お願いします。
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about anime. Now we haven't talked about anime in length on this podcast before, I don't think. So I thought it was about time. And just to warn you, I'm not an anime otaku. I'm not an anime expert in any way. I'm sure a lot of you listening know a lot more than I do on this topic. So I apologize in advance. Just enjoy listening to two people talking. Just enjoy listening to two people in the cheap seats talking about stuff they don't know about. So there you go. Although Ami Sensei, I don't want to talk for you. So I'm sure you know a lot more about anime than I do.
でもbut you know, I'm not like an expert either. So yeah, I know about, you know, I know some.
We know some.
And like the classics. But yeah, we'll talk about that more later.
So I've split this podcast into two sections. First of all, we'll talk about classic anime that's famous in Japan, but not necessarily that well known abroad. Yes, I know you anime otaku definitely know all the anime that were ever made, but this is our basic list. And then after that, we'll talk more about recent anime that we've been watching and that we like. And we'll also, right at the end, we'll talk a little bit about a few tips and tricks for learning Japanese through anime. Does that sound good to you? Is that good, people? I hope so.
Yeah.
Ami, I hope they're still listening. So...
I'm listening.
Oh, well, good. Thank you. Listener of one. Woo. Ami Sensei.
Hi.
Let's go back in time and let's talk about some famous classic anime that your average Japanese person would know. So let's start off with you, Ami Sensei. I'll throw the ball over to you. Tell me about a classic anime.
So I'm going to talk about 名探偵コナン, which is my absolute favorite. And it's not necessarily like a really old, you know, like a classic, but I think, you know, it can qualify as a classic, you know, like a 90s classic anime. But anyway, so 名探偵コナン is about a high school student and detective, Kudo Shinichi, who gets drugged by these bad guys after being caught witnessing, you know, one of their secret and shady dealings or meetings. And, you know, the drug was intended to kill him, but instead, his body shrinks to a size of a first grader, except, you know, his mind, like, you know, is still a high school student, right?
Right. Got it.
So, but then, you know, for his safety, he decides to go by a new name, Edogawa Conan, and that's where Conan, the title, comes from.
So, why does he decide to change his name? It's just so that because he looks like a first grader, he doesn't want to seem out of place, so he just changes his identity to fit what he looks like, right?
Well, that too, but like, because the bad guys who, you know, appear from time to time, you know, they think that he's dead, right?
Got it.
From the drug. But yeah, so basically to hide his identity, he starts his second life, basically. So, you know, as he, you know, like finds clues and, you know, tries to figure out how to become, normal again, or, get his body back or whatever.
Right.
He solves cases, like he continues to solve cases that occur around him and his friend Rang and her not so bright dad, who is also a detective. He just happens to be a detective.
Right.
So he actually, he lives with them, but they don't know that he's Shinichi. They don't know. They just think that he's this little kid that their family friend, they have mutual family friends, and they're like, oh, if you could take care of him, yada yada yada. So only a handful know of his true identity, like his parents and this scientist Agasa Hakase.
It's really interesting. It's kind of like child with a adult's mind, almost like a secret superhero, bumbling sidekicks.
They say, what's the catchphrase? They say, 見た目は子供、頭脳は大人、名探偵コナン.
Oh, okay, that's the catchphrase. Yeah, right.
They say that like at the very beginning, before the theme song like plays.
Just to embarrass myself and show my ignorance, the first time I saw Conan, and I think it was just like Conan. I was like, wait, what? Conan the Barbarian? Wait, what? What's this got to do with? And then I realized, oh right, no, this is just complete fluke. It just happens to be the same.
Maybe, maybe because of that reason, the English title, like the international, like overseas title, is actually Case Closed.
Ah,
そうなんです. So listeners might be like, wait, I know, I'm familiar with this. Isn't it called Case Closed? Yeah, it is called Case Closed outside of Japan.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's, again, it's my absolute favorite. Not many animes come out with movies every year, but Conan is, one of very few that does, and always draws a lot of people to the movie theaters. I love the movies too. Also love seeing Shinichi, the main character, and Ran's relationship, because they're actually like, good friends. And so she's sort of like, okay, where the heck is he, but he, like Conan kind of like, tells her, in various ways that, he's around and, without giving away his identity, of course. But yeah, so if you love mystery, I definitely recommend it. And good news is I think you can still watch many episodes on Netflix. So if you search Case Closed,
Yeah, Case Closed. And I guess you can watch it in Japanese and English. I haven't checked.
Last I checked, it was just
only Japanese.
どうだろう?
I'm in Japan and I have a Netflix account, and there's a hell of a lot of anime on Netflix these days, and I don't know if the same list of anime that they have on the Japanese Netflix account is available in the States or not, but there's a lot of anime.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't see it anymore.
Oh no, you're checking it and it's not on.
Oh no.
Hang on a minute. Let me check. I'm checking right now on Netflix. Here we go.
How about Japan?
Okay, one sec here. Just signing in.
Well, there's got to be a way to watch it somewhere.
I think you can cheat by using a VPN. And I'm just going to write in
so sad.
Yeah,
although
I've got Conan.
Okay, a few years ago we could watch it on Netflix over here in the States. And I think I watched it in Japanese with English subtitles.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you can watch it on the Japanese Netflix. So maybe, I don't know, you can cheat and get a VPN, and then you'll be able to watch it then. Yeah. 名探偵コナン. Good stuff. Yeah, I've never really watched it, but after your glowing recommendation, I might check it out.
面白いですよ。
いいです。
The good thing about the anime series is that, you know, the weekly anime series is it's usually like a one-off, like a one-time story. So like it doesn't really, you know, like one case doesn't continue over more than 2 episodes. So it's usually like 1 episode or 2 episodes per case. So you know, you won't be like they won't leave you hanging, you know, and not like you not knowing who murdered this person, you know,
right,
forever.
Right.
So,
oh, that's really interesting. I will definitely check it out.
Oh, and a couple interesting facts about Conan. So I guess technically in the anime, only 6 months have passed in the story. Even though, you know, this anime series has been going for years and years. Yeah. But so many people, like thousands of people have died. So yeah, excuse me. So I think that's pretty funny. So many cases.
And he hasn't grown up at all, has he? He's just still this...
He has not. He's still this first grader because it's only been 6 months.
It's only been 6 months, so there you go. Weird timelines.
I know. And then, which I guess a lot of anime does that.
So yeah, I'll definitely check out Conan. It's definitely I would say classic anime, and I guess it started out as a manga, right?
Correct. And it's still actually the manga series are still going. So
oh really? Oh, interesting. Yeah. Cool. Well, there you go. Conan, Meitante Conan. Is that right?
Yes.
Conan. Check it out. Check it out, people. Well, I guess on the topic of classic anime and manga, we couldn't not mention Pokemon. And the funny thing is, I was actually talking to Ami Sensei about this before, and actually, I was never a Pokemon fan. I didn't dislike it. I'd never really watched it.
Yeah. Me neither.
I think I'm just like the wrong generation. But basically, what for those of you who have been living in a cave and don't know what Pokemon's about, what is the basic synopsis? Would you say?
So it was originally a role playing game,
right?
By Game Freak, I guess is the company, and now a hit anime series, but it follows the adventures of Satoshi, who is a Pokemon trainer. By the way, Pokemon is short for pocket monster.
Right.
But, you know, everybody knows it as Pokemon. Pokemon is the English title, of course. Right. And so Satoshi is the main character, and his Pokemon, Pikachu. This little yellow mousy creature.
Electrical yellow mousy creature, yes.
And his friends, you know, who catch and train these different Pokemons and, you know, fight against other trainers' Pokemons, you know, and then they all like fight even stronger trainers and yada, yada, yada.
It's definitely a typical trope in anime that you have battles, you have different, I don't know, warriors, if you like, of different levels and different skills.
Yeah.
Who battle each other, and it's very hierarchical, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's interesting that, you know, it's one of, or it's less common that an anime is originally a game. Like, it, you know, a lot of times animes become games.
Right.
Like they make games, right?
That's an interesting point.
And then like, or manga becomes anime. But, you know, with Pokemon, it was originally a game. So I think that's, you know, pretty cool. I'm not sure if there are too many like that. So, and I think, you know, even though I didn't watch the anime very much, I actually bought and played the Game Boy game a little. Yeah, it was interesting, but I think because the anime is geared towards younger kids, that's probably mostly why I wasn't like too interested. Like the game was interesting, but then the anime it's very like very cutesy and very like kodomo muke, as you would say in Japanese, like for kids, for younger kids.
So usually what happens is you have a manga that then turns into an anime that then turns into a game.
Right.
But as you were saying, that what's interesting is it started as a game, it then turned into an anime, and then they made a new game, which is Pokemon Go.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I remember Pokemon Go just went absolutely nuts about, when was it? 2016, I think.
A few years ago.
At least in Tokyo, like in 2016, I forget when, maybe like the spring or the summer. And I went to Yoyogi Park. I actually did a video that's on our Learn Japanese Pod channel on YouTube, and it's me walking around slack-jawed and surprised, looking at hundreds of people playing Pokemon Go.
Doing Pokemon Go?
In Yoyogi Park.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I mean, it was a real phenomenon, and
over here too.
Yeah, like everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And there were these crowd control problems, and people actually got injured.
Yeah, bumping into things and people and getting into trouble.
And some really extreme cases of people actually dying because they wandered into someone's backyard, or they walked off a bridge or something.
Oh my god!
Or they got hit by trains. So it was absolutely insane. And so that was back in 2016. It's now amazingly 5 years on, and obviously that craze died down. But every now and then, I'm on the subway. And I'm walking along and I see someone playing Pokemon Go. And I actually have to like stop myself from, blurting out loud, "Oh, you're playing Pokemon Go. I remember that." Because they would just turn around and say, "You're such a weirdo."
That's like, as we would say, natsukashi.
Natsukashi na, yes.
Yeah, natsukashi, but yeah. I didn't play it though.
Yeah, I never downloaded it. But the really interesting thing I remember about Pokemon Go was it seemed to be like two generations. It was like elementary school kids and a bunch of like middle-aged people playing it, which I thought was just like really weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed the original game. So I'm sure, the app or, Pokemon Go was, fun too. And maybe more fun, right? than the original game.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But what an amazing phenomenon. And I guess that I may be wrong, anime otaku, please correct me, but I think Pokemon was probably one of the main cultural exports to the States and other countries abroad that made anime and, Japanese pop culture even more famous than it was before. I mean, obviously there have been waves of, cool Japan that have like spread across the globe, back in the 80s.
But it's like, but everybody, I think, or a lot of people know Pokemon.
Yeah. Pokemon is one that, even if you're not an anime fan, you've definitely heard of it. I think even Matt and Trey Parker from South Park made fun of Pokemon in one of their
I'm sure they did. They make fun of everything.
Oh yeah, no, they did. And I won't.
It's like, what haven't they made fun of?
And they gave so they have a story where they have this like Japanese toy that's exported to the States, and then the toy is used to hypnotize.
It's already funny.
Hypnotize American kids. It's hilarious. And I won't say the name of the toy they used because this is a family show and it's very rude. And South Park. We'll keep it clean on this one.
Oh my. Yes, it's absolutely clean. But yeah, the I don't know if you knew this, Alex. But a lot of the Pokemons don't speak. Like they just speak gibberish.
Right.
Or, whatever.
Shimpun kampun.
Sounds. Yeah. And, but apparently Pikachu originally was going to speak.
Right.
But instead they gave that role to Nyasu or Meowth.
Yeah, right.
Who is a crucial cat character and a member of the villain group Rokettodan. So, Pikachu now, he just goes, Pika, 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 Pika. And like the other, and the other characters, like a lot of them like will recite part of their name, right?
Right.
Like Pikachu, but yeah.
What was the cat one called again? Nyansu.
Nyasu.
Sorry, Nyasu. So.
Oh, I can do a Nyasu.
Go for it.
Impersonation. Okay. Nyante.
Okay, so before the corona zombie apocalypse, I was hanging out with a friend of mine and her nephews, and she was doing Yasu impersonation to her nephews, who at the time were kind of like 5-6 years old, and she did it, and then they just replied, "No, that doesn't sound anything like him," and she was like,
"Yeah." So maybe a lot of you are like, "Oh." Like, no.
That's not how he sounds.
I know. To me, that's how he sounds. I know. Yeah. Let me know. Leave me a comment on Instagram or something.
Although, hang on.
How that sounded.
There was that Pokemon movie where Pikachu does actually speak.
Eh?
Hang on. Wait.
What? Mind blown.
Movie cast. Hang on.
No.
Yeah, so
don't crush my dreams.
So it was Pokemon Detective Pikachu, and it was starring Ryan Reynolds. And then so you can
wait. No, that's like the real life.
Yeah,
whatever,
that's live action version
or live action
version of the movie.
No, that doesn't count.
Oh, okay. Good.
We're just talking about the anime.
We're okay then.
No. Oh, that's too bad. Pikachu should only be saying Pika Pika or Pika Pi.
Pika Pi. Yeah, so in Detective Pikachu, Ryan Reynolds is Pikachu. Oh, Watanabe Ken is in that as well. That's interesting. Didn't realize that. Oh, naruhodo. So that's Pokemon. We couldn't not mention Pokemon, and I guess another anime or production company that we are compelled to mention, of course, is Ami Sensei.
Miyazaki Hayao-san. Or Studio Ghibli.
Yes.
And I say or because not all Studio Ghibli, productions are of Miyazaki Hayao, but a lot are. But basically, Miyazaki Sensei is, he's currently 80 years old.
Is he 80 now? Wow.
Yeah, but he started out in the early 70s. So, he's been doing this for quite a while. And, for those that aren't familiar with him, he is basically like Disney of Japan. Would you agree, Alex?
Don't tell him that.
No. Don't tell him that.
He would get really pissed off if you compared him to Disney, but
probably, yeah. I mean, basically, like the anime kids, fantasy anime king of Japan.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And many of you may be familiar with, say, like Spirited Away, which is Sento Chihiro no Kamikakushi, or Howl's Moving Castle, Hauru no Ugoku Shiro. But I have to say my favorites are the classics, like the older ones. Some of his first movies, like Tonari no Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro, and Tenku no Shiro Laputa, Castle in the Sky. And although the original story is not by Miyazaki-san, I also like Majo no Takkyubin, Kiki's delivery
Kiki's delivery service, yeah.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
There are a few Miyazaki movies or Studio Ghibli movies that aren't famous. I think most of them are quite famous. By the way, here's a bit of trivia for you. Can you guess, without Googling, what year Totoro came out in? Have a guess.
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you, yeah.
I know, let's see, Totoro came out after, like Nausicaa. Nausicaa, I think, was his first. I want to say Totoro came out in 1986?
Very good, 1988.
Really?
1988.
Oh, so close.
Didn't realize how old it was. I actually studied Totoro, or I should say my Japanese teacher at university made us watch Totoro in class.
Really? What a great choice. Yeah, what an awesome teacher.
Yeah, I had some fantastic Japanese teachers at uni. And one class we came in and she was hilarious because I think previously she said we were going to have this like really hard grammar test and none of us were looking forward to it. And she said, okay, are you ready for the grammar test? And we're like, yes. So we're going to watch Totoro. And everyone's like, yeah, we love you. So we watched the movie.
So she lied?
She lied. It was, she was really funny, actually. Yeah, she had a bit of a...
This was in Japan?
This was in Japan. She had quite a twisted sense of humor. So, Ami-sensei, tell me more about Totoro.
Okay. So I guess out of those three, Totoro would be my favorite, although it's, always hard to choose one. But basically, Totoro is about, or Totoro follows summer adventures of these two sisters and her family that move to the countryside and meet strange but cute creature Totoro and other friends. He's like this giant like rat or
kind of
a
like
cat, I guess cat.
Yeah,
looking.
I guess he's a cross between like, I don't know, like a bear and a cat.
Yeah.
And a rat or something. Yeah. He's very cute though.
That's a great explanation. Yeah, he's very cute. Despite his size and everything. And so, it's kind of fantasy, but there's also like like this theme of family love, and also the pictures are really pretty. Like you can get a glimpse into what life is like in the country in Japan, especially in the summer, and just lots of cultural, I think, insight and cultural points you can kind of make out in the movie, and sister love as well, and family love, like I mentioned, and so it's about this like this creature, but I think it's more than that, and also I think a lot of the Miyazaki-san's movies, he tries to remind us that it's important to not forget, like, how we felt when we were kids, and like, being like, staying, or having that sort of like, kodomo no, a child's like mindset.
Yeah, the childlike way of thinking. Yeah, I think like a lot of the child characters in his movie, weren't they based on his own like nieces and nephews, I think?
Yeah, like people he knew,
right.
he knows. Yeah, so very realistic in terms of the actual humans, I think.
Totoro is the ultimate fantasy feel-good movie. My favorite is Mononoke Hime, which I guess the English is what, Princess Mononoke, right?
Princess Mononoke.
So I like this movie just because it's a really good plot. It's a really interesting story. It's basically set in 14th century Japan, which is the Muromachi era. And our hero, Ashitaka, gets attacked by an evil demon, which poisons him. So he goes on a quest to get cured by this, I think it's the Shishigami god, which is this kind of deer-like god that lives in the forest. And on his travels, he gets caught up in a conflict between humans that are destroying the forest and nature, and Moro, which is the wolf god, and his companion, who's Mononoke Hime, Princess Mononoke. And Moro and Mononoke Hime are trying to protect the forest and nature. And this is a very common theme in Ghibli movies, which is, you know, civilization versus nature, old versus new, you know, nature versus environmental destruction. And it's a very, very common theme that runs throughout most of the movies. So he seems to be actually quite critical of civilization. My theory is that I may be wrong, but I think he grew up in Mitaka, right? Or he at least Studio Ghibli is in like Mitaka.
I think so.
I think it's
the museum.
And the
I know he's from Tokyo.
He's from Tokyo. I may be wrong. Please Google this, but I know that Mitaka, which is where I happened to go to university, is the first time I went to Japan, used to be this bit of green belt in Tokyo up until after the war. And so it was very rural. There were a lot of fields. And that area, like most of Tokyo after the war, developed very, 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 very quickly. So I think that Miyazaki-san's opinions about urbanization and environmental destruction are probably based on that. I may be wrong, but I get the feeling that it's a lot of his movies are based on that. And anyway, so Mononoke Hime, one of the reasons I really like it is I really love the style of ancient art and the clothes that are featured in the movie. And apparently, I think some of the clothing, the designs and the art is based on the Emishi and Ainu tribal art, which are these like really, really old, I guess, like indigenous tribes in Japan.
Yes.
So anyway, it's super, super interesting. And I have a lot of Japanese friends who love that movie. So there you go. Studio Ghibli. So let's talk about a few more kind of classic anime that you should definitely know if you haven't watched them yet. One, of course, is Akira. Have you watched Akira, Ami-sensei?
No.
What? No. Oh, I can't believe it, Ami-sensei.
I think maybe like 1 or 2 episodes, but I'm sorry.
Well, there's the movie Akira, right, which is just kind of one movie. I highly recommend you do it. Just to give you a super quick, synopsis. Basically, it's it's set in post-apocalyptic cyberpunk Tokyo. Our hero Kaneda is a bike gang leader.
Okay.
And he tries to save his friend Tetsuo from government agents who are doing evil experiments on him and children with superpowers. So it's a bit like Blade Runner meets Stranger Things, kind of. I know that's probably a terrible analogy, but the reason I like it is the art and the animation is second to none. It's just simply visually breathtakingly amazing. I actually used to have the manga, and each page of the manga is a work of art. I mean, it's absolutely genius, and I don't use that word lightly. The plot is a little convoluted and complex, but I think the sense of world building and being immersed in this futuristic cyberpunk city is like really striking and exciting, and it definitely influenced a lot of sci-fi movies. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's also got an amazing soundtrack as well. And a very interesting fact about it, it was first published in 1982.
Wow.
1982, yeah. But the story, interestingly enough, is set in the Olympics in 2021.
No. Wow, 怖い。鳥肌立った。
Yeah. Now, how on earth did they predict that? So that was just this like weird
Like that was going to be in Tokyo?
Yeah, and it was the Tokyo Olympics in 2021.
Wow.
Which is so bizarre because...
That is very bizarre. That must be like all over the news or something.
Well, yeah, no, people were actually... People were tweeting, oh, look, it's like... There's one of the scenes is like, 30 days to the Tokyo Olympics. And people were just like tweeting that image on Twitter 30 days before the Olympics.
That is crazy. And, of course, it's been a year, delayed also.
Yeah, exactly. So. And so, and the weird thing, it was obviously scheduled for 2020.
Right.
But then because of the zombie COVID apocalypse, it was put off till 2021. Like, how weird is that?
That is really crazy.
So someone had a crystal ball there.
But I'll try and check it out.
Check it out. It's if you have a free Sunday afternoon and you want to check out some very classic Japanese anime cyberpunk, I guess you'd call it. Mm-hmm. It's definitely it's influenced so many movies and so many other anime.
Right.
And it's evil government doing evil secret experiments and corrupt officials and
that does sound a bit like Stranger Things.
Yeah, it's a bit like Stranger Things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So is there blood?
Sorry?
Is there blood? Because
Oh
blood,
yeah,
is it gory and like
I wouldn't say it's exclusively gratuitously violent, but there are kind of some violent scenes. Definitely not an anime to show elementary school kids. But,
okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Don't show it to your kids, Ami Sensei. So but definitely check it out. I think it's worth watching just to say that you've watched it. It's definitely a very, very influential piece of art. And personally, I just love that style of art. I just thought it's really, really good. Again, like it's a little convoluted and a bit complicated, but just enjoy the cyberpunk landscapes and stuff. It's very good. Yeah.
了解.
Now, something very different from Akira is Crayon Shin-chan. You know that, right?
Crayon Shin-chan.
Did you watch it?
Yes, absolutely. Like we had the manga books, but we also loved, watching the anime series. And even though it's like it's like every year it's like one of the animes that like the top one of the top 5 animes that parents don't want their kids to watch. It still seems to be so popular.
I heard there was a bit of controversy over that. What was it about? Was it that kind of mothers were kind of angry that there was too much toilet humor or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So Shin-chan, Crayon Shin-chan is about a little 5-year-old Nohara Shinnosuke, or Shin-chan for short, and his family, his mom and dad and little sister, baby sister, dog, neighbors, and best friends, and is set in Kasukabe, which is in the Saitama prefecture of Japan.
By the way, just a quick note here. I love the way that some anime are set in very, very specific areas in Japan.
Yeah, like actual places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why there's this whole tourist industry to visit the areas where anime are based.
Right.
Yeah.
And the art is simple and cute looking, and the stories are like really funny. They're always pretty funny. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of toilet humor. I'm not so sure about now, because it's 2021.
Yeah. Do you think they've kind of toned it down a bit?
They've probably toned it down, but like Shin-chan will a lot of times like pull his pants down.
Right.
And things like that. And I think they've probably toned it down because back in the day, like he would be like, you'd see him hitting on girls, right? Like that are much older than him. and like, all this, like all this stuff. So, that's a major reason why a lot of parents were like, no, my
Right.
kids cannot watch this, but it's really funny and a classic. So
It's definitely check it out. So that's Crayon Shin-chan. Yeah, I didn't watch it that regularly, but I'd watch it every now and then. It's just really funny, and like his voice is really funny. Yeah. I like it. Okay, here's another one. Are you ready? Hokuto no Ken. I think this is pretty. I don't know. This is
classic.
this is definitely a classic. Fist of the North Star. So this is again set on a post-apocalyptic Earth after a nuclear war, and the story is about a warrior called Kenshiro, and he's a practitioner of the Hokuto Shinken martial art, which allows him to strike his enemies' pressure points, resulting in them dying in a very kind of gory and violent way. I think it's, it's that kind of the idea of that martial arts style where you hit people's pressure points and then they die after exactly 7 days. So that's the kind of thing. Anyway, so in a typical fight scene, Kenshiro hits his opponents in their vital pressure points, and he always goes da 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 da. And then the enemy invariably says something like, "Ha! You are pathetic. You have but the strength of a mosquito." And then Kenshiro calmly rolls out his regular catchphrase, which is, Ami Sensei,
お前はもう死んでいる.
"You're already dead." And then we cut to enemy's head spontaneously exploding.
Ew.
Yeah, this is definitely. I think as the series evolved, this became more tongue in cheek. And the fights got like more and more ridiculous. I think the producers started to have a lot more fun coming up with these crazy dialogues and these like bizarre fights. There was this one fight I was watching with a friend of mine. So they get into a fight, and then Kenshiro's enemies, they're usually like 10 times bigger than him. And it looks like he's going to lose the fight, but then Kenshiro does his da 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 da, and then this enemy goes again. You're pathetic. You have the strength of a flea, and then omae wa mou shindeiru, and then the guy, his body starts convulsing, and then he just says imo, and then he explodes, which is Japanese for potato.
Yeah.
It didn't make any
Why?
sense. I think I know why he said imo. I think it's because the animators were slowly going crazy after having produced like 500 or like 1,000 episodes, right?
Yeah.
And they were just like, we just need to make this fun somehow by just making it more and more bizarre.
Really random.
Really random, but yeah, Hokuto no Ken. It's a classic anime. Definitely check it out. Have you watched it that much, anime? Ami Sensei?
I didn't because I didn't like now I can tolerate stuff like that more, but I wasn't really like a gore or like a
martial arts anime enthusiast. Yeah. No, it's definitely. Yeah, quite a special anime. So I don't think everyone would like it, but definitely check it out. It's very, very. When was it? Was it like the 90s? I think it came out.
Yeah, or maybe even earlier.
Maybe even earlier. No, dear listener, Jiyu ni gugutte mi. Please feel free to Google. Again, like I said, I'm not an anime expert, but anyway, Hokuto no Ken. I love it. It's just hilarious and camp and ridiculous and very entertaining. Last classic anime we'll quickly mention that we could not mention, of course, is Sazae-san, which I think pretty much every Japanese person knows, right?
Yes, I agree.
This is quite an amazing anime because this probably wins the award for the most well-known and the most classic anime series and manga in Japan, although it's not that famous abroad, right? I don't think it's that well-known, right? It's basically about the life of a traditional Japanese housewife, Sazae Fukuta, and the plot the plots for each episode, again, they're kind of fun and simple and reflect a more traditional Japan from past simpler days. It's a little bit like Crayon Shin-chan in feeling. Here's a bit of trivia for you. On September the 5th, 2013, Sazae-san was awarded the Guinness World Record for the longest running animated television series in the world. As of November 2015, there have been 7,332 episodes aired.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot.
So this is as Japanese as Mount Fuji, rice, and sumo. Yeah, it's you must have watched episodes when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, it's like every kid watched Sazae-san every Sunday.
Yeah.
Evening. It was like right around or before dinner time. So, pretty much every kid watched this growing up.
Okay, Ami Sensei, it's time to switch to some recent anime. This is not an exhaustive list. I'm sure you anime experts know way more anime than I do, but here's just a couple of recent-ish anime that Ami Sensei and myself have been watching. Ami Sensei,
hi.
You ladies first. Tell me a recent anime you've been watching.
A more recent one I would say is One Piece or One Piece.
Super famous, yeah.
Alex-sanは見たことありますか?
It's like it's impossible not to watch it. It's just everywhere. It's on TV all the time. Up until recently, you tended to see One Piece merchandise everywhere.
Yeah.
Not so much now. It's kind of it's
toned down a bit.
It's past its.
But I think now, it's like this year, it's big again because they put out the 100th book, the manga book, and the 1,000th episode.
1,000th. Yeah. Say that 10 times quickly.
1,000th. But basically, for those of you that don't know, it follows the adventures of Monkey D. Luffy, who is a young pirate determined to become king of all pirates. He has acquired this magical power of becoming Gomu Ningen, which literally it translates to elastic person. So, because he ate this fruit, this evil fruit, Akuma no Mi.
Right.
So that's his superpower is, his arms and legs and his whole body can stretch. And it just follows his journey where he makes friends that join his team and fight, all these different villains. Each character has their own reason and motivation behind, joining Luffy and his adventures. So, it's fantasy and action, but there's lots of comedy if you like, funny anime. But also like heartwarming or heart-wrenching movie or moving scenes. So, you're like laughing at one scene and maybe crying in the next scene. It's actually very oku ga fukai manga. I would say very lots of like themes and
it pulls at your heartstrings.
It does.
Interesting.
Going back to some facts about One Piece in 2015. So One Piece also made the Guinness Book of World Records, but for most copies published for the same comic book series by a single author in the whole world. So
interesting. Oh, really? Not just Japan.
Not just Japan. So, and at first I was like, oh, it's probably just like geared towards, like guys, not to be sexist or anything, but it's actually for everyone and all ages, and it's very addicting. And I think kids can watch it too. So, yeah.
Do you think it was inspired a little by Pirates of the Caribbean. Because I remember when Pirates of the Caribbean came out, suddenly everyone was into pirates. It was, and all these like copycat TV series and stuff.
I think it was before that, and
Oh, was it before that?
And I know
okay.
the author, had always wanted to write a pirate manga, like even when he was a kid. So he started out pretty young, like he didn't. Obviously he wasn't like a professional until, later, but, he still started pretty young. So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, One Piece, it's if you haven't read it, it's absolute, or watched the anime, it's absolutely huge. It's definitely peaked already, but it's still
great.
Very, very
it's
much
really good.
It's very much part of the Japanese anime world, so definitely check it out. Well, talking about one recent anime to another one, the hot anime of the minute is Kimetsu no Yaiba, better known as Demon Slayer abroad. So this is the anime at the moment. It's the hot anime. So basically, it's set in Taisho, Japan, which is roughly during the First World War. And the plot centers around Tanjiro Kamado, whose family is killed by a demon. The first episode is really depressing and gory. It's like his entire family is killed. It's like, oh, that's not a fun way to start off a series.
Right.
His sister Nezuko kind of survives, but she's infected and turns into a demon herself. And so basically the series is about him going on a quest to train to become a demon slayer, which is Kimetsutai, so the demon slayer core. And he also wants to find a cure for Nezuko so he can basically turn her back into being a human. Again, like I said, this is the anime of the moment, at least in Japan. You can't go anywhere without seeing Demon Slayer pens, posters, bento boxes, and any kind of merchandise you can think of. It's absolutely everywhere. And apparently the latest Demon Slayer anime movie, Mugen Train or Mugen Nesha, is the highest ever grossing anime of all time, beating Studio Ghibli.
すごい。
To be brutally honest, I personally don't see what all the fuss is about. It's okay. I like it.
I love your honesty, Alex.
No, I'm just being brutally honest here. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other anime I prefer to Kimetsu no Yaiba. I don't know why this is so popular. It's good. It's competently done, but it doesn't seem anything special to me. However, to full disclosure, I did actually binge watch the first 26 episodes on Netflix.
Okay.
And I even made some Anki decks to study some of the new vocabulary I learned. And the other day I watched Mugen Nesha.
Okay.
And it is, like I said, it's not my favorite anime, but it is entertaining, and the action and fight scenes are done really, really well. So yeah, Demon Slayer, go check it out. You can definitely watch it on Netflix. Oh, no. You can watch it until October 1st.
Oh, no.
So it's probably already ended. Although I think they might be starting season 2 on Netflix soon. I may be wrong, but check it out.
Okay.
Maybe you can purchase the DVDs, or maybe there's another streaming service you can watch it. But if you just wanted to know what every single elementary school kid in Japan is watching, it's Demon Slayer. That's it. So have you watched it at all, Ami Sensei?
No, but there must be lots of reasons why it's good, right, Alexa? I know you're like, I don't know what the fuss is about, but
no, I mean it's definitely entertaining. The they've mixed 3D CG with kind of traditional 2D animation, which is quite good actually. So there's some very complex scenes where you're kind of flying through this 3D CG world with the 2D animation on top of it, which is quite effective, I think. I guess Nezuko, the sister who's demon, is incredibly cute and fun. And there's a lot of...
Maybe some like traditional, like, because you get to see like, I don't know, traditional Japan. I don't know, for people overseas.
You do. You get to see a lot of traditional Japan, and it's kind of interesting because it's Taisho Jidai. So it's like basically kind of, if you think of World War I Japan, it's a very, very interesting mix between old and new. So you've got basically people walking around, at least in the anime, you have people like walking around with katana, fighting demons in the forest, like it's like some kind of fantasy movie. But then they go to the town and there's like steam trains and telegraph poles,
interesting,
and all that kind of thing. So it's a very kind of interesting mix of old and new.
Cool.
And Tanjiro is always kind of amazed about like all this like new technology. And there's a lot of like fun banter between the characters. I mean, a lot of it is aimed at elementary school kids because some of the conversations and scenarios are very kind of over the top. But check it out. Definitely worth checking out. And then one honorable mention, if we're talking about recent anime, is Jujutsu Kaisen. And Jujutsu Kaisen, I think, is like the next up and coming huge anime series. I'll admit I'm going to apologize up front, but I really don't know anything about this anime at all.
You probably know more than I do.
All I know is it's absolutely everywhere. So this is like an anime that I think all the kids are reading the manga, and the anime is coming out too. It's very popular. There's a couple of episodes I think translated into English on YouTube. Apparently it's about a high school student, Yuji Itadori, and he joins this secret organization of jujutsu sorcerers in order to kill this powerful curse named Ryomen Sukuna, who Yuji becomes the host. So he's got his kind of cursed. So it's a little bit like Demon Slayer in that you have all these people, wandering about with these kind of superpowers, and there's magic. Anyway, you can tell I don't know what I'm talking about here, but Jujutsu Kaisen is definitely an up and coming anime that is very famous now. Yeah. Okay, so that was our very haphazard survey of classic and recent anime. I hope you found that somewhat interesting. And I just wanted to kind of finish up on a couple of points on how to study Japanese through anime. And Ami Sensei, please give us your tips and tricks and advice or comments if you have any. And please feel free to stop me if I wander off the path of righteous Japanese studying. So studying Japanese through anime is like a big topic. It can turn into a bit of a heated debate. But these are just a couple of points, my own personal points, about studying Japanese through anime. So my number one point is, again, this is just my opinion, the main reason you should watch anime is purely for enjoyment. If you're not into anime, don't bother, don't watch it. If you're into a specific anime, watch it. I think just enjoying it is the whole point.
Yes.
I wouldn't get too stressed about, I have to watch anime to get, to really improve my Japanese. Just watch it because you enjoy it. I think that's the most important point, I would say. I would then say if you're studying Japanese and you're using anime, another really important point is don't expect to understand everything. Be okay with not understanding every single word. Again, going back to point one, I think the point is just enjoy watching it. I think if you just enjoy the experience, you're going to stick at it longer. and you'll be surprised by how much Japanese you subconsciously pick up without actively studying. I used to sit down with the dictionary and try to look up every single word.
Mm-hmm.
It just turns into this like boring marathon.
Takes a long time.
Yeah, it just turns into this boring study marathon where I think you should just kind of, as long as you have a general gist of the story, you're totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me on to my next point, which is using comprehensible input for understanding anime. Now, comprehensible input is the idea where you understand most, but not 100% of the input you're getting from a language. So the idea is that you already understand the context and background of what's being said. So, for example, with anime, you can probably already understand a lot of what's going on from the images that you're watching, right? So if you don't understand every single phrase that's being uttered, when you see the protagonists in an anime, you know, draw their swords and start shouting at each other, it's pretty obvious that they're going to have a fight or a battle, right? So another trick is just simply watching the anime in English first, so you understand the story, and then just watch again in Japanese. And then even though you might not be able to catch every single word being said, you'll understand or, again, comprehend the basic story enough for you not to get lost. And the point is that this makes your studies a little easier. Some people might say by cheating, but at least you understand the basic story, what's happening. You're not getting bogged down by looking up every single word. You're enjoying the experience. And I think what happens is if you already understand the story, when you listen to it purely in Japanese, your brain tends to pick up more of the language. I think you can absorb a bit more of the vocabulary and grammar that you're listening to. So that's the idea of comprehensible input. And then the last point I'll mention about studying Japanese through anime is this eternal debate about whether you should actually do it or not. So the arguments against using anime for learning Japanese basically go like this. Number one, a lot of anime is quite difficult. And so if you're a beginner, you might get overwhelmed and give up. I mean, especially like the very first episode of Kimetsu no Yaiba, this one of the demon slayer warriors has this long conversation with Tanjiro, and the Japanese that he's using is incredibly flowery and traditional and really hard to understand. I think, in fact, most elementary school kids probably wouldn't understand it. And so you might get a bit put off by that and give up. And the other reason against using anime as a Japanese study tool is that the language in anime is usually not natural. You know, if you only studied One Piece, you'd quickly notice that Japanese people in the local convenience store don't talk like pirates, right?
Right.
So those are the arguments against doing it. The arguments for doing it is, you know, anime is just a really fun way to learn Japanese. And I think that kind of trumps everything. That's my argument. The other kind of arguments for studying anime is like, if you study anime, it gives you this common frame of reference with other Japanese people, so that when you make Japanese friends, you'll actually have something in common to talk about, which I think is a huge thing. Even if you don't understand absolutely everything, just knowing that there's an anime called One Piece or Demon Slayer means that you can have conversations with Japanese people more easily. And then the other reason for studying anime as a Japanese study tool is you definitely learn Japanese that isn't in your textbooks, even if some of it is unnatural. I don't know. I'm trying. Omae mo shinderu.
Yeah, can I add to that?
Yeah,
Alexander.
Yeah.
So even though I agree. Sorry, even though I agree that a lot of anime is the language is unnatural sometimes. Some of it is natural. Like if you watch, say, Sazae-san, right? It's a lot of it is natural. So I guess it depends on the genre, like the kind of anime. But like you said, you can learn a lot of Japanese that's not in textbooks and more, you can find natural sounding conversations too.
The other kind of, I guess this is like point 3.5, but I'm in recent years, I've slightly changed my ideas about language acquisition, like how you learn a language. And I've been watching these videos by this guy called Steve Kaufman.
Okay.
I think he's this Canadian guy who's a polyglot. He speaks something like, I don't know, like 15, 18 languages or something.
Oh,
do you know him?
I've heard of him.
Hi, my name's Steve Kaufman, and I'm going to tell you how to learn 27 languages.
I've watched maybe a little bit of one of his videos, but yeah, I am aware of him.
And he's got some really, really interesting ideas about language learning. And I think I don't want to misrepresent him, but I would imagine that he would approve of watching anime because he says that when he studies a language, one of his techniques is I just study what I want to study. I don't necessarily use textbooks. He's all about getting input. And he says it's natural that, when you start out, 90% of the input isn't going to stick because you can't understand any of it. But as long as you're just getting lots and lots of input from sources that are interesting to you, you'll actually pick up the language a lot more effectively. And there's this theory that you don't just acquire a language through conscious, active study. You also pick up the language subconsciously through experiences, through being exposed repeatedly to the language in different contexts. So a lot of people write in very kindly saying that they enjoy the random phrase of the week segment of our lesson podcast, just because it's kind of funny. It's not that you would necessarily use those phrases absolutely every day.
Every day, yeah.
But they're kind of funny and they make people laugh. And so your brain tends to learn that stuff a bit better. And I think Steve Kaufman is definitely one of these, polyglots who I think his technique is just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. That you're attacking the language from many different angles. I'm not against textbooks. I'm not against learning lists of vocabulary by rote. But I think that, watching anime or going to a Japanese Matsuri festival, drinking with your Japanese friends are all equally valid ways to get Japanese into your head. So
I agree.
I think anime is it's definitely not the only way to study Japanese, and it's not the perfect way to study Japanese, but it's, one of the weapons in your arsenal, one of the tools you should have on hand to, get the input you need to improve in a fun way. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Well, thanks for your tips, Alex-san.
These are just things that I personally noticed through my own studies. Please feel free to disagree with me.
No, I agree.
Academic linguists might be shaking their fists at this podcast, but that's my opinion and I'm sticking to them.
You stick to them.
I'm sticking to my guns. Anyway, Ami Sensei, thank you so much for hanging out today. That was really, really good fun.
That was fun. Thank you so much. ありがとうございました。
Arigatou gozaimasu. Dear listener, thank you very much for listening to us blah, blah, blah about anime.
I know.
You can hang out with us on our Discord channel. Just go to learnjapanesepod.com, click on the link for the Discord channel. You can become a member. Come and hang out with like-minded people who are studying Japanese. Come and say hello.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you can also study our online Japanese courses at dojo.learnjapanesepod.com. That's dojo.learnjapanesepod.com. Check out our courses. And thank you again for listening. And I hope that you are now maybe inspired to watch and listen to anime to improve your Japanese. So thanks a lot. See you next time.
またね